know we kind of live in a generation, excuse me, I know we kind of live in a generation that thinks that looking good is really important. It is, like, I'm not going to lie, some of my favourite drummers are the most visual drummers. But what makes them awesome drummers is because they can actually drum awesome, but they look like they're having fun and they look like... But there's no point looking awesome if you're actually not an awesome drummer. It's just awkward, you know? So all of these things, like we got like wrists, like, sorry, not wrists, we got elbows and straight arms and like, I love Hillsong, let's get that on the record. And their drummers are good. But man, some of their technique, I watched some of them. There was one dude literally who played like this. He was like bent over. I was like at their, this was years ago at like their Hills campus. There's one dude like bent over and he legit would play like this. Like this. And I'm like, wow. You can play like that in, you know, but you're going to have back problems. You're going to go through cymbals and all that kind of stuff. But he looked really cool in that particular time. But it was like, I'm like, dude, I would hate to be your physio because you can do that for a little bit, but you know, you're going to have back problems, you're going to have wrist RSI problems, all that kind of stuff. He could play well enough, but he wasn't a brilliant drummer, and he just looked like an absolute peanut. There you go. So, but technique's important because the thing is, right, you should, if you have good technique, you can maintain intensity, you can maintain speed with minimal effort. It gives you way more playing options. And it's actually important because it maintains your health. It gives you more playing options. It maintains your gear as well. You go through less sticks, you go through less cymbals and skins, you get less blisters, and you can actually make the drumstick do a lot of work for you. And that gives you stamina. That gives you stamina as well. You know what I mean? So you can play all day. I remember when I first started playing more and more and more, I couldn't play past sort of 2 or 3 hours because I would start blistering. But then when I learnt technique from my teacher properly, then I could do an all-day session and then back up the next day and play a gig. You know what I mean? And then another gig and then another gig, and I wouldn't blister across my hands. So. First things first, forget about the fashion statements. Not that I'm sure, I'm being general, I'm not acute. I don't look at you guys and go, I think you guys are too cool, trying to be cool. If you attempted to play what looks cool, just remember this. You've got to make the drum kit work for you. Don't work harder than you need to. Like, sure, I've done stupid things. I actually kind of like playing like I had a China cymbal, I'd like play it up here. But that's actually pretty easy to get to because you'd be like, rather than like reaching down here or something like that. I just spat on the hi-hat. So here's a basic rule. It's like, do you guys play soccer? Anyone like soccer? Wrong crowd? Yeah. So they say if you're going to, you don't like soccer, do you?
So, I like following the World Cup, but that's about it. That's right. As far as my soccer.
Typical Australian. So if you're going to strike a ball, they say it's all about balance. You can't hit a soccer ball well until you're actually properly balanced. So, I'm the world's most rubbish goal scorer. Like, I've played almost a whole season, haven't scored a goal. I've had a few cracks, but they actually say, and if you look at a soccer player when they're about to strike a ball, they got to get their foot as close to the ball as possible, and as they're about to shoot, they actually put their arms out. It's like they're about to fly. They go like this. It's actually funny. They come in, as they're about to score, they go like this. Boom, plant their arm, and whack. Why do they do that when they're not using their arms? It's all about balance. If they're off balance when they hit the ball, the ball's going to go. Whoo. Same thing with the drums, basically. You've got to be balanced. And first things first, I would sit up straight, and I've got a really long upper body, and that's really awkward. I look like I'm like towering over the drum, but it's not necessarily about looks. So sitting up straight is just going to help you back. There's not really any magic science to that, but make sure you're balanced. So you're not sitting sort of at the front and leaning into the drums. You're not leaning back. So you're playing like this. You're going to make sure you're balanced. So legs square on, enough room for your snare drum, and a comfortable legs distance, which makes sure your balance is good for your hi-hat. Because it's all about biomechanics. If it's like walking, if you feel like walking, then you can play drums with minimal effort because it's like you're physiological, you're like made to walk with feet. So that's important. So your balance. This isn't too far out here, that's not too far out there. The other thing is snare drums. I try and make sure my snare drum is getting close to sort of my waist height. If it's too low and I've got to like rest my hand on my thigh.
Bruises.
Well, yeah, bruises, totally. But you limit your technique options and the sound options as well, because you're like playing down here. I'm trying to play special, but the thing is, you've got your feet balanced, you've got your snare where it is, and so your snare. So this is my general rule: if you didn't have sticks in your hands, where is your clapping level? About here. For me, I clap about here. So that's where I want to be playing with my sticks, where my hands naturally sit and clap. Like that. Like that. So I don't have to go too low to play the snare. If I want a rim strike, well, that snare's probably a fraction too low. So it's about clapping level. Maybe a fraction lower, but that's natural. Because if I was not playing with sticks, this is what my body would want to do. My hands would be flat, my elbows would be like sort of casually sitting beside me. They wouldn't be here. Have you ever seen the Cause drummer play? She's like, elbows, armpits, everything.
Maybe she's just really skinny. Just looks like.
I know, seriously, Google it. She's like, it was funny. So casual. So my shoulders sort of sit about here, clapping about here, and so if I was going to play the drums, my hands would be flat, and this would be the motion. So wrists first, then elbows up towards the shoulder. That's biomechanics at its easiest. Shoulders about here, and so that's where I play, generally speaking. So it's got to be easy. So for the most part, like when I'm doing snare work, my hands are flat. So that's about like that, but my hands will tilt a little bit over on the hat. And as I'm coming around, I will go thumb over down here, because it's like my hand is sort of moving, you know what I mean? So if I'm playing like this, it's like, if you didn't have sticks in your hands, would you be playing like this? Your range of move, it's easy if you're doing the robot, but you don't get the luxury of having power and control like you do if you're going with the natural biomechanics of your body. So that's basic technique. The other thing is getting the most out of the drum sound. Where you hit and how you hit the drum gives you heaps of options. I'll give you an example. So if you're hitting the tom-tom up here, sure you're getting a sound. I'm hitting it with a solid hit. Come into the middle, you hear the whole drum. Notice the difference? When you play, you want to actually let the drum sing. The way you do that is by hitting it in the middle and bringing the stick off straight away. Because if you're hitting like that, you're choking. You're gonna make. What's that?
Touching hot water.
Yeah. And so whenever you play a film, you want every hit to be heard. So like, you want it to be really. So those things, if you need power without effort, in the middle. But really, you want everything to sound intentional, so it sounds good. So making sure the drum, you can hear the drum hitting in the middle is good. What's that? So that's, why would you go to the effort of busting a cool fill and then everyone think it sounds like spaghetti? You've got to be able to. Actually, if I've had from drummers, like notable drummers, if I've had one piece of encouragement that they've given me, they've said it always sounds really clear when you play. You can hear every hit. And it's because I've learnt the timing, but I spent a good deal of time learning when I hit it, and I was catching it on everything tonight. When I hit it, it's hit. Now I know that when you play the snare, when you rim shot, you're probably going to play a bit over, but that's got more to do with the density of the stick, the quality of the sound. So, do you guys rim shot at all?
Most, like 95% of my hits are rim shots.
Yeah. Now, rim shots sound good because that's when you've got. What is this? Okay, so it's like an entry-level Mapex. Say if you invest in some good gear, the quality of your drum is the shell, you know, and you put a good head on a good shell, sounds amazing. Now, most drums will sound pretty similar if sort of hitting in the middle there. True quality is when you start giving it some good hits like that, especially it fattens out the sound when you have a rim shot. And so you're going to play a bit off center there. And what a rim shot, I'm not sure, do you know what a rim shot is? Yeah. When you're collecting the rim and the skin at the same time. But rim shots are like a surefire way to play way too loud. Like if you can't control them.
Do you rim shot most of the time? Or?
I do, yeah. I don't know how to control it. If I know I'm going to play it really quietly, I'll just play in the middle. Like, yeah. But that comes down to wrist control. So that's probably too loud if I was going. It sounds quiet to me, but it projects. Quite often it's quite more piercing out there. So if you need to be less piercing, it's probably good to play in the middle. But so you have more control when you have the right technique. Now it's really important. Do you guys know your rudiments?
No.
You don't know your rudiments?
What's that?
Singles, doubles, paradiddles?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, how often do you practice them?
Never.
Never? Okay, this is the key. This is the key to getting control with creativity in your playing, is if you learn the simple rudiments.
I'll just stop you for a sec.
So when you, because I notice it's almost like you start again before you finish.
Not
So
that.
you're doing that, but it's like you started while you're still doing the kick.
Yeah, look, there is no one tiger to stroke. There's many ways. There's many ways to stroke a tiger.
Yeah.
Like all it is it's a triplet fill. So, for instance, a triplet 1, 2, 1, and you can address a triplet any way. Go, or etc. etc. So that's all it is. You're going, and then you're adding a bridge in the middle. So it's like a so. So it's actually probably, what is it? How many? Is it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? So it's actually technically a sextuplet. it as long as you like, so you can return. Basically, if you want to end it, just come back on the snare. So it's a 1 knee and a 2, or a 3 knee and. So if you want to double it, you just go back to the tom. So you go. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you get up to number 4 in your hands, and then it's 5, 6 on your foot. It's just all practice for me. You can even just change where. You just change it. And then you just got to find a context to put in. You just got to watch, yeah. Like if you want to finish a section, you can go 2 or 3 times through. Or if you just want to, go from like a chorus to chorus. Back into the beginning of your new bar.
Do you always lead with the same hand? Is it the same thing? Or
Yeah.
reverse that?
It's just easier.
It's just, if you're doing it on the snare, it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or you could lead with your kick. Very slight difference about how it delivers versus, and it doesn't, when you play it just by itself, you're like, oh, it sort of is, but sort of isn't different. It all depends on how you're approaching it in a song. So, can you hear any difference?
Not that time, no.
Okay. Did you?
I think the second time.
It's very minute.
You start with the kick, the second time?
Yeah. So I started with my hands, I started with my kick. You'll be able to work out whether it's easier for you to start with your kick or your hands. So that's all it is. It's just 6 hits on the drums.
It's pretty cool that you're doing that with that double kick.
Well, without getting into too much, because we've got to go, I don't know if it's officially worldwide drum sanctioned, but it's actually a reverse double. But the way I get it fast is I start with my heel, and I bury the top of my heel into the base of the kickboard, like that, because it actually hits the skin. But as you know, my foot is still in the same position, and the beater is off the head, and then I just go forward. So it's.
My foot is the slide.
I've got a big foot too.
That's it, heel thing.
You actually don't have to move your foot.
Used to do double kicks like that.
Who?
My John used to just do toe and heel, double kick. I could never do it because it's like.
Well, that's what it is. This is heel and toe.
Yeah.
Two.
Front of your shin starts to hurt after a while.
Cool.
But that will only sound good if you hit in the middle and you can get your stick off the skin quick enough. Like that.
Cool.
Cool? Does that answer your question about how to stroke the tiger?
It's boss nuggets, man.
Yeah.
It works.
That
It's-
tiger was stroked.
It's 6 delicious hits.